Saturday Snap Count Week 12 recap. We've got the college football playoff rankings just came out about a little over an hour ago that we're going to talk about. We've got the games coming up for this weekend, and we've got a recap of our trip from Oxford and maybe, just maybe, one more trip coming up, which we're going to get to all on this episode right here, right now. Let's roll the music and let's get started. Saturday Snap Count Week 12 recap show. Before we get started, let me tell you about two partners we have. We have StubHub. If you're ready to be in the building for the next big moment, concert, game, show, StubHub is the place to get your tickets with total confidence. With transparent pricing, verified tickets, and their Fan Protect guarantee, you can focus on the experience, not the stress. Check out StubHub.com through the link in the description and grab your tickets today. StubHub, be there live. We have one more partner to talk about today. That is Fanatics. Whether you're gearing up for game day or repping your team at the office, Fanatics has you covered with officially licensed merch for every league, every team, and every fan, especially college football. Jerseys, hats, collectibles, and more. Visit the link in the description to help support the show. Fanatics, officially licensed everything. And with that, I'm going to show you, actually, I got a new fit. If you haven't already seen, I got a little funky collar going on. Yeah, it's a new fit, and it's from Fanatics. Let me show you what I got. I'm going to have to put the microphone down. We got the dart. That's right. We got the blue throwback dart. We got the throwback dart. We got the throwback dart. Let's go. And it's so sick. And it's from Fanatics. This is my third wedding anniversary gift from my wife. She's amazing. She's the best. And she used my Fanatics link to get me this. So go out, get what you need for your significant other. Get your Christmas presents. Indulge in yourself. Who knows? Just use the Fanatics link. And then if you want to go to the games, like I went to Oxford this past weekend and watched them beat the Florida Gators, you can do the same thing with StubHub if you use the link as well. We haven't quite got to the level where I can help you, but you can really help the show by using the links in the description for those two things. And what that'll do is help support this show, help us grow, and it helps us show these two major players in the sports area that we are bringing people to their brand, and that will come along with eventually down the road some promo codes to give you guys, so you guys can start benefiting from the work that you do for this show, the support that you do for this show. So really appreciate it. But yeah, I had to wear the new fit. I had to wear the new dart when I got it. Thank you to my wife again. It's so sick. I wish I could see it on camera myself. I'm going to have to go back and watch the clip. But yeah, we got the throwback blue dart. I love it. Fanatics, StubHub. Get what you need. All right. This is going to be a short one. A couple things we are going to do. We're going to talk about our trip to Oxford. We're going to talk about a potential trip we have coming up. That's right. The Saturday Snap Count Tour may not be over just yet. We're not going to do a top 10 because we've shifted to the playoff, and I haven't quite gotten down a graphic for the playoff yet. So instead of doing that, we're going to talk through the playoff. We're not going to do just a graphic, throw it up. Here's what I think. We're going to talk through it. We're going to talk scenarios. We're going to talk possibilities. And then we're going to talk about the games that we have for this upcoming week to get you prepared for Thursday night show that'll air on Friday morning. And then we'll recap the results from this past weekend. And that's in no particular order. We're going to go through those things as they come through my brain. So let's start off with the results, because that's probably the worst part of the show. So let's start with it. Another subpar weekend. I got the graphic pulled up here that I actually put on the show with everything that we had. So not a great weekend again. For the morning slate, we had Pitt plus 12.5, and they got bodied. It was not a great game. Not a great pick. I really thought that College Game Day being there, boosting the environment a little bit, could kind of put them over the edge. But unfortunately, it just didn't work out that way. So that was not great. Then we had in the afternoon Alabama minus 6.5, which at this point, I mean, I was oblivious to what was going on. Pitt was the only game that I really watched because that was happening as we were on the way to Oxford. So we had it on in the car because it was a group of us that went, and super super fun. But really, by the time we got to Oxford, and we did a lot of things other than just being on campus in the Grove at the stadium. We ate lunch first, which was electric because we went to Obie's. If you've ever been to Oxford, Obie's is legit. I think there's one other location in Starkville, ironically, or maybe somewhere around there. And Obie's is basically like a Cajun McAllister's or a Cajun Nukes. So kind of just like a Cajun deli. They have the typical like po' boys, platters, things like that. That's just so good, just so elite food level. Um, and I just can't describe it. It's literally one of my favorite places to go. I typically get the chicken tenders because they're really really good, and they have a dipping sauce that they call a Creole mayo. And you would think like it's like, oh, there's like just traditional mayo with a little bit of like Creole seasoning mixed in. No, it was like it's got so much going on. It's like orange, and it's so good. It's got a little spice to it. It's so good. It's amazing. So I had that with the chicken tenders, of course. So that was great. They have great fries, great garlic bread. Their po' boys are good. So that was an electric start to the day. Went from Obie's and let me also say, went to Obie's at noon, so like primetime lunchtime on a game day that's kicking off at 6 p.m. So I'm sure everybody was eating lunch at 12 o'clock. And it was no problem getting in and out of Obie's. No problem. They got our food super quick. The line was, had plenty of people in it, but it took no time at all to get through the line, find a table for a group of five, which is not easy in that specific location. And everything was good, everything was right, and there was TVs, going, and it was just awesome. Super super great experience. I wish there was an Obie's around here in Nashville. Maybe I can franchise that or something. I don't know. Maybe that's down the road. But I love Obie's. And then we went from there to a place called Rebel Rags, which if you're familiar with the Ole Miss Oxford community, you know all about Rebel Rags. Rebel Rags is basically the Ole Miss bookstore on steroids. It is everything that you could ever want to wear with the Ole Miss logos on it. It used to be like this little store, it's kind of an amazing story. It used to be this little store when I was growing up. We used to go to Rebel Rags before every game, and it was like a couple aisles of stuff. And it would kind of be like merchandise on one side where you have like coffee mugs, flags, car flags, license plates, to t-shirts, hoodies, jackets, whatever. It's pretty basic. And it was not an extension of the university. I don't think it was just kind of like a store that had some stuff. And over the years, it has grown and grown and grown. And I don't know anybody that shops in the Ole Miss bookstore anymore. Anybody that shops in Oxford for Ole Miss stuff is going to Rebel Rags. And they have expanded to the size of like a small grocery store, like a supermarket, if you will. They have the same original location, and then they built onto the back of it this huge, huge place full of stuff. So they've got everything, man, to officially licensed team issue gear to, the regular old kind of just like basic t-shirt, hoodie options to your super nice, very high end, like rowback, like, they just got everything. And then they still have all the like mugs, license plate borders, car flags, traditional flags, lawn flags, dog stuff, just other like knickknacks, hats. They've just got everything. It's awesome. And they also sell all the NIL stuff in there. So if they have a player that's like getting benefits from the NIL from like their jersey sales, like you can get their jerseys in there. all of it's officially licensed stuff, which is it's just awesome. And I think it's actually really cool that you get it off campus, so you don't have to fight with campus when you kind of are like there to go to the game to also go, and then you have to like lug all this stuff around. You have this major benefit of being able to go when it's like right towards downtown Oxford. You go, you park, you get whatever you want, spend way too much money, and then you bring it right to the car. You put it in the car, and then you go to wherever you're going to go to the game. So I had an awesome time. This kind of turned into like my Oxford trip, really. We went to the Grove after that. Had a couple spots in the Grove where we knew some people. So went there, hung out, and then we just kind of did our traditional loop where you just kind of walk through everything. Ran into Marshall Henderson in the Grove, famous, probably one of the more famous basketball players at Ole Miss of all time, commonly known as one of the biggest villains of college basketball of all time. So pretty cool. It's actually the second time I've seen him at an Ole Miss football game. I think he just gets around. I mean, I think he's still pretty involved with the basketball program. So obviously, probably not paying for his tickets, which I would be doing the same thing. So that was pretty cool. And then we did the Walk of Champions. So this was about getting close to 3:30, 4 o'clock at this time with the 6 o'clock kickoff. We did lunch, Rebel Rags, and did the Grove for a couple hours. And then, we went to the Walk of Champions, and I got some videos of everything, obviously pictures and stuff that I'll try to put in here. No promises, because that might be a little bit more difficult than putting in just like a graphic, putting in videos. I haven't done it yet, so no promises, but if I can and will, I'll put it in right here. I might stop the actual podcast so you can get the audio, or I may just put it in with no audio. But I mean, Theo Vaughn was on the Walk of Champions with Lane, and then getting to see, Kewan Lacey, Daquan Wright, Trinidad Chambliss, Austin Simmons, all these guys like up close and personal, getting high fives, and it was really, really cool. And then obviously getting in the stadium. We got into the stadium about 2 hours before kick, because that's when the Walk of Champions happens. So it just kind of worked out. We didn't really mind. It kind of gives you time to get in there, get some food, get a snack, and take care of that before you actually want to be paying attention to what's going on. And if you're like me, you like to watch warm-ups, you get to do that kind of stress-free, nobody else around you, but you get to kind of scout out your seats. If you want to walk around. So we did all that. And it was a great time, man. And then the game started. The pageantry was incredible. We were there for the number one attended game in the history of the football program at Ole Miss, 68,132, I want to say. If I got that number right off the top of my head, that's impressive. So to some stadiums, it's not a lot, but it's the most we've ever had at one game at Ole Miss. Totally maxed out, our stadium, which was great. So it's just really cool to be there for that, and obviously getting the win over a team that we've kind of needed revenge against, which is great. And doubling down on a team that really badly wants our coach. So we'll talk about that a little bit later. But yeah, that was kind of my trip to Oxford. And even better because it was the last home game. I mean, we got like the laser show, we got the drone show, and we just got all this stuff, like just pageantry on top of pageantry. It was awesome. So yeah, all that to say, I didn't watch any of the football games that we predicted, except for the Pitt game, because after the Pitt game, we were already there. We were getting it going. We didn't predict the South Carolina A&M game, which good thing we didn't, because we definitely wouldn't have picked that to happen. But we did get to watch that one a good bit, and then really other than that, it wasn't much. You can't really, you're not really afforded the opportunity to use your phone to watch games all that much when you're down there doing the whole game day thing. So it just didn't work out. But obviously with the results, if you keep up, it's probably a good thing we didn't get to watch. So let's continue to go over them. Sorry for the detour, but we got that segment out of the way, talking about the game day trip. But last thing I'll say about it, it was a 100 out of 10 type of experience. Never forget in my entire lifetime type of experience. I can't speak highly enough of everything that they're doing down there. It makes me want to be a season ticket holder, which doesn't even make sense because I live in Nashville. But it was absolutely one of the coolest things I've ever experienced in my life, one of the coolest things I've ever done in my life, and to get to do it with my brother. Um, yeah, I'm gonna get emotional, man. It's crazy. Yeah, I did not expect this. It's been a tough year for my brother and I. We lost my dad, and who was, obviously my brother is my half brother, so it's, he was his stepdad, but he was my dad, and he was a great dad, the best dad, and he was a great stepdad to my brother. My brother loves him like a father, and my brother and I have been really working really hard to kind of settle those affairs, get some closure on that part of our life. And to say that 2025 has been a rough year is an understatement. And we still have rough patches upcoming. We're still going through rough patches right now, trying to settle his estate, sell the house, do all these things. It is stressful. It is really, really stressful. And man, it all just hit me right then when I just said that. I can't believe that just happened. But to get to do an experience like going to that game, the number one attended game in school history, beating a team that we are now, very obviously rivals with, that we're playing more often, and like all these things that are going on, and the whole time, like my brother's right next to me, like I cannot explain how amazing that was. So yeah, wow. What a time. What a Saturday. I'm going to miss that. I'm going to miss that feeling for a very, very, very long time. Um, let's get back to the results. So Pitt lost. Alabama lost. They lost outright. Pitt, we weren't expecting to win the game, but we were hoping to keep it close. They lost by 1 billion, I think. Alabama lost outright. Ole Miss just missed by a couple points. Ended up winning that game by 10 or 11. We were right there. A couple mistakes that we made that just hurt us pretty early, and kind of played the comeback game after that. And then by the time we were able to actually run away with it, it wasn't quite enough. So I don't really care that we didn't cover because we won, and that's what's most important to me. But nothing there. Georgia, one of the two games we won, they just dog walked Texas, which we expected. Mississippi State was an embarrassment. And then BYU in the late slate, dog walk TCU. So really, just to talk about the, results, I know I kind of I don't have excuses every week, but I have reasons, why things aren't going the way they are. Number one, we're in one of the most chaotic football seasons we've ever experienced, where we're seeing teams do things they haven't done in a while, upsets like we've never seen before. And it's just a really chaotic, full season. And it makes it really hard to predict. And on top of that, for this week specifically, if you look at it, I talk about how successful teams are at covering spreads over the year and over their body of work. And if you look at this, Pitt was covering over 75% of the time. Alabama was covering over 75% of the time. And Mississippi State was covering over 75% of the time. And Ole Miss was covering over 60% of the time. And all four of those teams lost. So it's just how it is. It's a hard game to predict this year. I don't think anybody out there is doing really, exceptionally well. If they are, I don't know who they are. I haven't been watching their content. I need to be. But yeah, I mean, it's just how it is. It is what it is. So the main thing is that we have fun doing this. So that was last week. So let's talk about this week, what we have coming up. We recapped Oxford. And then we'll talk about our possible next tour stop. So coming up, here's the games that we have listed. I actually thought this was going to be a dud of a weekend because the playoff has been looming and teams are just kind of out of it, and it kind of reduces our number of games that we can watch that have something on the line. But it actually surprised me the more I went through it. So we have two games, in the morning. Missouri at Oklahoma -7.5. Louisville at SMU. SMU -2.5 at home. So both of those games, the home team is favored. Both of those games have playoff implications, with Oklahoma obviously in as of right now. And I would say Louisville has a shot in the ACC because the ACC is really just a grab at this point. Anything can happen there. In the afternoon, we have USC at Oregon minus 9.5. There's playoff implications there. I think if USC wins that game, they are in. Oregon's out. If Oregon wins, they basically solidify their spot because they more than likely will not play for the Big Ten championship. So they would be in. So another game with playoff implications there. Kentucky at Vandy. This one doesn't necessarily have playoff implications for Vandy. But it does have an interesting number, Vandy minus 9.5 at home. So we'll talk about Vandy in the playoff talk through that we'll have here in just a second. Tulane at Temple. I didn't write the number down. I apologize for that. And I don't have it in front of me, but we'll be looking at that game for the night slate for Saturday. We have Pitt at Georgia Tech minus 2.5. Obvious playoff implications there for the ACC. Georgia Tech is in a position where they're not in currently, but they more than likely will play for the ACC championship, which is their path into the playoff, which is crazy as a one-loss team. I don't get it, but it is what it is. Pitt, I think, still very much in it. I think really the ACC, like anybody's basically in it at this point. I'm not really sure. Tennessee at Florida plus 3.5. So Florida is the home dog by 3.5 points right now. And then BYU at Cincinnati plus 2.5. So playoff implications for BYU there because they are not in it currently, but have a chance to put themselves. I think they are pretty much solidified as I think it's them in Utah looking at playing in the conference championship for the Big 12 against Texas Tech. So BYU going on the road against a good Cincinnati team needs to win this game. And then you might be asking, why Tennessee and Florida? Well, that could be the next stop on our tour. I will be 30 minutes away from Gainesville on Saturday. We are visiting family that's down there for Thanksgiving. We will be there. We will leave Nashville on Friday night. And that Tennessee at Florida game isn't until 7:30 Eastern time, 6:30 local time. So we will be there with enough time. And we're going to see my wife's grandparents on her dad's side. Those grandparents just so happen to have 4 tickets to every Florida Gator game because they're diehard Florida Gator fans. And I extended the question to say, hey, have you given the tickets away yet? The other 2 that you typically don't use, they said they're all yours. And I really enjoy going to games with them because they love Florida just like I love Ole Miss. So kind of getting to experience, another place like that has always been really fun. I've been to 2 games down there with them. It's been fun every time, except for the time last year where it was against Ole Miss and they ruined our playoff chances. That wasn't very fun at all, but a great place to experience if you're a college football fan. Go to the Swamp, experience a game at Florida. So very, very good chance that I will be at that game. So that's why we have it on here. So that answers the games we have looking up for this week. And then the reason why I hinted at a possible extra tour stop for the Saturday snap count. And let me just say, in regards to that, it won't come out in the next couple weeks, but I'm going to see, again, we're doing Thanksgiving with the grandparents on my wife's side, my wife's dad's side down there. While I'm down there, I'm going to offer my very first guest position on this show to my grandfather on that side of the family because he was an SEC official for several years, several decades. Made a career out of being an official in the SEC. It's always been super intriguing to me. So if it's intriguing to you guys, I'm going to try to get a time when they come to Nashville for Christmas a couple weeks later for me and him to sit down and talk about his career, talk about what it looks like to be an official in the SEC. Hopefully have him tell some amazing stories that I have heard from him, some funny stories. and then actually give you guys an opportunity to send in some questions. So hopefully we will do that. I have to actually ask him still, and so no guarantee on what he's going to say, but we're going to hope for the best on that. And with that, let's wrap it up with playoff talk. So we have the playoff rankings for this week, with 2 official weeks of the regular season left. A lot of the teams that are in the playoff have already played their 11th game, so we have a lot of bye weeks this week of teams that are in the playoff, but then we obviously have conference championship week in the weeks following that. So let's start at the top and work our way down. That's the most sensible way to do this. So we have Ohio State, Indiana at 1 and 2. I do not think those will change. At least I don't think those 2 teams are out. I think those 2 teams are the only 2 teams you could say are locked in. They're absolutely locked in. Here's where you go after that. Texas A&M at number 3. The reason I don't have them as an absolute lock like 1 and 2 is because they still have to play 2 more games. So they're out of bye weeks. They have a game this week and a game next week. The game next week is Texas. Huge rival. Anything can happen. And then you have the conference championship game. Let's see. This week they play Samford. They're going to win that game, I believe is what I just saw. Yeah, they play Samford and they play Texas. If they lose to Texas and they're 11-1 and they go to the SEC championship game and they lose that game, then they're 11-2. Maybe they are a lock. The more that I think, I say that out loud, the more I think about it. Texas A&M's a lock, okay? I don't know. Are they? Because we're in an interesting position with this year. In the years past, last year it was the top 11 teams, and the 12th went to the G5. This year, because the ACC is so terrible, it looks like the ACC is going to be ranked outside the top 12. Therefore, you have to be in the top 10 to get in, because 11 and 12 will go to the ACC champ and the G5 top team. If Texas A&M loses to Texas, they're probably going to drop, let's say, 3 or 4 spots. That puts them at best, maybe 6. At worst, maybe 8. If they're 6, 7, or 8, and then they lose the conference championship to Georgia, you have to hope that you don't drop more than 2 spots to 10. And I don't know if that's even. I don't know. Because here's what you have to remember. I think we have a problem so far because we don't really know how to look at this 12-team playoff because it's so new. We're only in the second year of it. And I think the problem is people look at records too often. Well, if you want to look at records, look at BYU. BYU's 9-1, and they're right now, if it stopped right now and we chose the rankings that were in front of us, BYU would be left out. And they're 9-1. Georgia Tech is 16th, and they're 9-1. So don't look at the record because the record doesn't tell you as much. It's about when you win and when you lose. So if Texas A&M is undefeated at 10-0, and in the next 3 games that they're eventually going to play, they lose 2 of them, so they lose 2 of their last 3 games, I think it puts them out. Maybe that's a hot take. Can you go from 3 to out with 2 losses in 3 weeks? I believe you can. Because some teams behind them are going to win. So it's tough, man. So I don't know. I would say they have a 98% chance to get in because they're probably going to win against Texas, I would think. But there's always a chance that they don't. Georgia's at 9-1. They play Charlotte, and then they play Georgia Tech. I think they're in the same boat because they also play a tough last game of the schedule. They play a cupcake this week, a tough game at the end of the schedule, and then a conference championship game more than likely. So I think they're in the same spot. I think if Texas A&M beats Texas, they're in, no matter what the conference championship does. If Georgia beats Georgia Tech, they're in, no matter what happens in the conference championships. That's our stipulation. If one of these teams loses their last game and the conference championship, both of these teams are out. Now we move on. Texas Tech is probably in. They are 10-1. They only have one game left. And then the conference championship game, I'm not sure who that game is. Let me see. They finished the year at West Virginia. I don't believe they're going to lose that game. And then they'll play the conference championship. Probably a repeat with BYU. And I don't think that they're in danger of losing their spot because of the conference championship game if they remain a one-loss team, because they're probably going to go, I think at worst they stay where they are. Because again, they're not going to lose to West Virginia. So you're at 11-1. Your only opportunity to move up is Georgia or Texas A&M losing, or maybe Ohio State losing to Michigan in that game. I don't know that that's all that possible, but you never know. We saw last year. So that's their only hope of moving up. So I think as long as they make the conference championship game unscathed, I don't think they're going to be out. Ole Miss is in a great spot. They have the Egg Bowl. Anything can happen, but if they win that game, they will probably not be in the conference championship game, so they really won't have much opportunities to move down or up. And then you get into the interesting spot, 7 through 10, which is, again, those are the teams that will be in if they're in those spots. 7 is Oregon, who won't play for the Big Ten championship more than likely. They still have 2 games left. Let's see what they are. Oregon has to play at home against USC this weekend. Huge game. And then at Washington to end the year. Huge game. I think both of those games are losable. But if I had to pick the winner, I would say Oregon wins both. But they're losable. So, with that being said, obviously they have some work to do. And then if they win those 2 games, they're a lot because they're not going to play for the conference championship. Oklahoma has to play. Who do they have to play? They have to play Missouri and LSU. Both of those games are at home. I think they win both of those games. They're not going to play for the conference championship. They're probably in. Notre Dame is a cupcake independent, and they are probably in because they're probably going to win out and be 10-2. Womp womp. Alabama is at number 10, so they're in the very last spot where you are in by the number, regardless of your conference affiliation. The top 10 teams get that. Alabama still has to play Eastern Illinois. That's a win. And then the Iron Bowl at Auburn at night. Obviously, if they lose that game, they're out. If they win the next 2 games, they're in because they won't play in the conference championship game. They probably will have room to move up maybe 1 spot, and they're not going to be dropped out because of a SEC conference championship, I don't think. That would be dirty. Holy moly, I just thought of a scenario. Texas A&M and Georgia play in the conference championship game. One of them loses. Obviously, one of them loses that game, so it bumps everybody down a spot or 2, and then it pushes Alabama out after Alabama hasn't lost to end the year. They end the year 10-2. That'd be crazy. And it's only because the ACC stinks. But then we get to 11-12. Right now, 11-12 are BYU and Utah, but it doesn't mean anything because the ACC has to be represented. Right now, it's Miami because they're the top-ranked team. However, they're not going to make their conference championship, so it's going to be whoever wins the conference championship. And then the 12th spot will go to the G5 team, which currently is Tulane, according to the rankings. I believe they're probably in the best spot because they are ranked. They're 24th in the ranking. And I believe they are set up to go to the American Championship game, which the American has been the best G5 conference so far, with Tulane, North Texas, Navy, USF, Memphis. Those have been really the only teams that are in the conversation. So let's talk about teams that have a path. Miami at 13, I don't believe have a path. I think they're there right now because that's just the way the rankings shake out. But because of their losses, they don't have a path to the conference championship. So that's going to be the killer for them. So yet again, 2 years in a row in the 12-team playoff where they are just begging and begging, putting their resume out there to try to get in, and it's not going to work out. Vanderbilt at 14 is probably in an unfortunate spot where there's nothing else that they can really do. It's all up to other teams. So they have done what they're going to do. Other teams ahead of them are going to have to lose, and crazy things are going to have to happen, but it's not impossible. Here's what's going to have to happen. I talked about this earlier with a great friend of mine who's a Vanderbilt fan, and I wanted so badly for him to be in, but it's going to be hard. Not impossible, hard. Here's what has to happen. Because I think 1 through 6 is probably set, assuming a terrible tragedy doesn't happen, we have to look at 7 through 10. Because again, 11 and 12 are locked away. 11 and 12 are locked away. ACC and G5. So 7 through 10, Oregon, Oklahoma, Notre Dame, Alabama. Oregon can very well lose. Again, they can lose their next 2 games or even one of those games. If Oregon loses one of the next 2 games, they're going to be out. That moves everybody else up 1. Then you have Oklahoma, who could lose, probably not. So let's just say they move up to 7. Notre Dame at number 9 right now is probably not going to lose again, so they move up to number 8. So we have 7 and 8. You have 2 spots left, Vanderbilt. You have Alabama at number 9, who I actually think, now that I've talked myself into it, is probably going to get moved out, assuming Georgia and Texas A&M play in the SEC championship and end up one of those teams is going to lose. And then especially so if one of those teams loses their last game, Alabama's going to be out probably. If they beat Auburn, it'll help. I don't know that they really control their own destiny at this point, though. Let's just say they move up to number 9, and then that leaves the 10th spot to be between Vanderbilt at 14 and BYU and Utah at 11 and 12. So here's what you need to happen, Vanderbilt. Considering that you are probably fighting for the 10th spot, which is technically the last spot, with BYU and Utah, you need BYU to play Texas Tech in the conference championship game and lose. If they do, I think they're going to be out. Because they said tonight on the show that conference championship games can't affect your position because you can't take the conference championship games and act like they don't exist, because that devalues them in their entirety. It makes them useless, invaluable, totally. So to add value to the conference championship, you have to reward teams that win and somehow punish, bad word to use, but it's the only word I can think of, punish the ones that lose. So, if BYU plays Texas Tech in the Big 12 championship, you knock BYU out, and you are left with Utah and Vanderbilt to decide the very last spot. And at that point, it is strictly a resume choice. Utah is obviously above them in the rankings as of today, but it's 2 spots ahead, 12 and 14. To me, there's not a lot of difference there. I think personally Vanderbilt wins against Utah on a neutral site. I think personally Vanderbilt has a better chance of winning their first game than Utah. So I would put in Vanderbilt, but that's your best shot. It's your best shot. That's how it is. After Vanderbilt, the only teams, in my opinion, that have a chance, Miami doesn't have a chance at 13. USC at 15 has a shot if they can. Let's pull up their schedule. If they can beat Oregon and then beat UCLA, that'll put them at 10 and 2 with wins over number 7 Oregon, number 21 Iowa, number 15 Michigan at the time. And those are kind of their best wins, but because of the way the rankings shake out, they're probably going to get in with those 2 wins, assuming some other people lose. Strictly the win over Oregon in this case would be their way in, which would be bad for Vanderbilt. Very bad for Vanderbilt. So you need USC to lose. Georgia Tech is at 16 somehow. They're 9 and 1. They are on the way to their ACC championship appearance. If they win that game, they're in. If they lose that game, they're out because they're too far down to afford a loss, even in the conference championship game. And I think after that, there's no hope. You do have Virginia at 19, who I guess has a path to ACC championship. But what are we even talking about there? Because Duke has a path. I mean, it's pretty upsetting from a college football fan standpoint. The ACC is just terrible. So that's kind of where we're at. Ooh, it's going to be a rough year. I just need Ole Miss to win the Egg Bowl, and then I have nothing to worry about. So hopefully that happens. Great time on the show tonight. Shorter episode, 41 minutes and counting right now. I know for sure I'm going to cut off a minute or two of that. So hopefully around 40 minutes. Maybe that'll cover your ride to work tomorrow morning or your lunch break or your ride home. I'm not really sure, but we're just recapping last week and talking about some hot topics. And I had to show you the Dart jersey. So go to StubHub, use the link in the description below to get your tickets to go see some games. And you're helping out the show. You're going to help us improve everything that you're seeing here, everything that you're hearing. You're going to help improve that. Go to Fanatics, and if you have Christmas gifts, if you have to buy yourself something, you have to buy a Christmas gift for somebody else, you have an anniversary coming up like I had, and my wife bought me this amazing dart, and use the link in the description, and you're also going to help the show in that way. Hopefully we'll have some more partnerships come through, be able to offer some more links for you guys to follow to be able to support the show. And again, I apologize that I can't provide like a promo code or a discount anyway, but just know that nothing changes for you other than the link that you're going to click, and everything else that you would normally buy is all the same. And you're going to help the show to the point that in the future we will be able to offer you a promo code. So I appreciate the support there. Great show. We will have a show on Thursday and have it posted on Friday morning for sure, because we have to leave town on Friday. So we will absolutely have the prediction show for Week 13 on Friday morning out. And then I'm not sure how we're going to do Thanksgiving week. We may have to skip Thanksgiving week because we won't have our equipment and our gear. But I will make up for it by getting my grandfather, who is an SEC official for decades, to come on, talk about the industry, talk about the sport. It's going to be awesome. It's going to be a huge payoff. And that's not for sure yet, just like it's not for sure that I won't record on Thanksgiving week. We'll see. I'll do my best. But with that, we're going to close out. We will see you guys on Friday morning to talk an amazing weekend of college football with huge, huge playoff implications. And I may just be finding myself in the swamp on Saturday night to watch the Vols. Can't wait. Love me some college football, man. But with that, it's a bye week for Ole Miss. Stress-free weekend minus the Lane Kiffin stuff. Yikes. I'll talk about that on Thursday. With that, I'll see you guys later. Hotty toddy.